Hello, this is Aisha DeLune, and you are listening to the Aligned Living podcast. Today, I'm going to tackle the topic of other people's advice and opinions. This could be opinions or advice that you get from a book, people that you know and love, total strangers, even. So, let me start by saying a lot of inspirational content from the coaching, personal development, spiritual evolution space is sharing things that are actually completely true, and I still recommend that you explore your unique foundations before applying it to your life. And this is my recommendation for advice from and suggestions from anyone outside of you, including your friends and family. So just because something worked for someone or many someones doesn't mean that it's right for you. And this is for three main reasons. The first is we are unique. So what inspires and delights and is completely aligned for you might drain and deplete and be completely misaligned for me. That's not because one of us is right and the other one is wrong, but it's because we're different, and that's actually wonderful. Difference is how we create synergy in our world, with each of us contributing our own aligned uniqueness. Secondly, we have unique starting points in terms of physical, financial, emotional, energetic resources, and we also have completely different neural pathways and patterns. Even identical twins that have grown up in the exact same household will have different pathways and patterns, some similarities, sure, but we're starting from a different place. Thirdly, we have different intentions for our results. And I'm going to talk about this more later on in the episode. So I'm going to run us through a couple of examples. Now, neither of these examples may apply to you, but what I'm teaching today is the pattern of self-reflection that I suggest that you run yourself through when faced with, invited or not, opinions and advice from other people, books, videos, and all that jazz. So let's start with a nice easy one that's not likely to trigger anyone, so you can see the pattern. Let's imagine that I've got a block of land and I'm looking to build my new house on it. And someone that I really care about and admire, whose opinion really matters to me in lots of areas of life, gives me this advice. Just build your home on a 100 millimeter concrete slab. I've done all the research and this is the best and most cost effective. Now, this sounds confident, it sounds tidy, it sounds like it should settle all of my questions. But here's the thing, a choice like how thick a concrete slab isn't chosen in a vacuum, and neither is any other choice, which is why I'm using this as an analogy. 100 millimeter slab might be perfect for them in their circumstances. So earlier I suggested that, any advice you explore through your own unique foundations. And in this analogy, you'd start running that advice through the filters of your own specifics. Like, are they building the same kind of house? If it's single story or double story, that'll change things. Is it a lightweight build or are we using really heavy materials? Is it a wide open plan or is there lots of internal support with walls? Do they have the same kind of ground? Is it stable soil? Is it reactive clay? Do they have, and do I have, consistent moisture, or is there shifting conditions? Is it going to be like a straightforward site classification or one that needs more engineering? Is the block flat or is it sloped? Stuff like that. I'm not a builder, so there's probably a whole lot of other things. And if you're a builder, you can laugh at my limited understanding. But it's an analogy, people. I'm not teaching buildings. So like if it's sloped, you may have to look at kind of excavation, cut and fill, drainage. There's, retaining bits. So the site works will change the overall kind of cost equation. So even if that 100 millimeters was fine structurally, the overall build strategy might be completely different. And this is the whole point. The person who's offered the advice, it was right for them. Their best and most cost effective was that suggestion, but it's only best and cost effective inside their exact circumstances. And it doesn't automatically transfer it to yours, no matter how confident they are or no matter how much you trust them with other types of advice. Advice from other people can be well-intentioned. It can come from a lot of lived experience, but it's their lived experience. It can be very informed from their own perspective. It can be spoken with conviction, which is very attractive when we're a little bit wobbly and unsure. Someone who seems so sure that they've got the answer is very attractive. Just look at the last thing that you impulsed purchased from seeing an ad because you watched something and the person seems so sure, and it's very attractive. But if you've bought enough things on the internet, you'll know not everything actually solves your issue. So unless the person offering this advice or suggestion has circumstances that exactly match yours, their advice isn't automatically your conclusion. It's an opinion that would require you to see kind of how similar your situations actually are and kind of ask yourself, is this true for me? Will it fit? Is it right for my conditions, for my life, with the foundations I'm working on? So I use this nice and easy analogy to kind of ease us in because it's logical and it makes sense. And as I said, it's not likely to trigger any angst. But now let's look at another bit of advice that I've heard many times. And it's all it takes for a successful marriage is hard work. And I'm not disagreeing. At first pass, this is like relationships do take work. I tell people they're like a garden. You can't have an amazing garden in your new house and then just leave it for 5 years and expect it to be still beautiful in 5 years' time. It requires, pruning and weeding and planting new things and mowing, and it takes maintenance, and relationships take that kind of maintenance as well. So I agree. But using the 3 points that I introduced earlier, let's explore this advice. All it takes for a successful marriage is hard work. And the first is, we're unique. So our definitions of success in marriage differ. So if you went to 100 30th anniversary parties of people who'd been married for 30 years, you would find that some people consider themselves to be in a successful marriage, but they don't even like each other or respect each other, or at least one person doesn't. And you might have one person oblivious to the fact that there's any issues and the other person just gave up even trying to communicate their perspective more than 20 years before. But their version of success is that they stayed together. So the daily kind of external viewable situation is not necessarily that kind of idea of what success is going to be unique for all of us. There's also some hard work that some of us are willing to do and others aren't. So more than once, I have worked with someone in a marriage where their partner has asked to change things into it being open so they can sleep with other people. And the person working with me is like, I'm hardwired for monogamy. And I'm really uncomfortable with it. And they've been questioning them, are they the problem? Should they be this? Are they a prude? All of this stuff. And the person saying this is the hard work we need to move forward, you're allowed to choose what hard work you're allowed to do and what hard work just isn't aligned with you. Just to give you a couple of examples. So the second thing I was saying is we have different starting points. So let's be really clear here that not everyone has the same partner to work with or the same existing dynamics as a starting point if they start to work on their marriage. And not everyone has the same amount of energy. If I'm working with a couple and they've got 2 children under 2 years old, the amount of energy they've got to pour into each other is going to be really different to an empty nest couple who've both retired. They're just different in terms of hours in the day and how much available energy there is. The different starting points can also be about who we are and how we are when we chose the partnership. So many people choose partners from unhealed childhood wounds. So, the wounding matches. The third thing is we can have different intentions for our results. So if staying married, regardless of how congruent it is the goal, that's very different to getting aligned and potentially risking the relationship in order to have the kind of honest and transformative conversations that would actually improve things from the foundations up, from the unconscious patterns up. And in my career, I have worked with so many people that have arrived at a point in their marriage where they're like, I am done. And most of them, I've never actually done the stats, but I would say at least 70% of them end up having the best years of their life with their partner, because that wonderful place of I'm done, finally loss aversion has dissolved and they're able to have the kind of pattern changing conversations that really change things. And this is where all it takes is hard work. So kind of stay miserable and just keep working at it is not necessarily the right advice, depending on the circumstances. Sometimes there is great love and care and effort in a relationship, but not the communication skills. So I've worked with people where both people feel that they're doing the hard work, but what they're actually doing in terms of hours of effort isn't landing as meaningful effort to their partner because they're not doing the things that matter to their partner. So continuing to do that hard work thinking you're going to end up in something fabulous isn't going to work if you can't actually have conversations around like, is what I'm doing really landing as support for you? Sometimes the greatest outcome for everyone is a dissolving of a partnership that on its best day is not aligned for both people. Because as I said before, sometimes a partner can be chosen following like unresolved family trauma, and patterns can't hold together as people find their alignment. And they need this relationship to evolve and be mutually healthy and healing. Like sometimes it can, if sometimes people are committed to the amazing evolution that committed relationships create, but not everyone is. Some people want to stay in their patterns, or they don't believe there's a way forward, or they don't want to do that kind of work that feels confronting. But the people that are committed to that evolution will then, all it takes is hard work is what's actually true. But we've got to choose what is the hard work, and we've got to choose what success looks like. So exploring your foundations is deeply personal when kind of running advice through them. And people selling solutions to a lot of things don't look at the foundations at all. So if you've ever asked, why didn't that work for me? This might be why. And this has happened to me in my business many, many, many times until I learned to filter business advice through filters like what I'm sharing with you today. I also just want to name here, sometimes the complexity of filtering advice and opinions through your own filter, it gets more complex if the advice is coming from like family that you really love and respect. You've got a living history of their advice being like helpful and meaningful. So it can be really difficult or feel even a bit disrespectful to internally have to go, let me just see if this is true for me. Or if you've got family whose approval you're really wired to still be seeking, it can be really confronting to kind of stop and go, do I want to do it the way they're suggesting? It is more complex as well when you're getting advice from that kind of really successful person, and you really, to quote When Harry Met Sally, you really want what she's having. Like you really want what that person is having. So there's this yearning. And the higher the yearning for what they're having, we might just act without necessarily really running it through, is it right for me? But just remember that when what works for someone else, especially when it seems really easy and fun for them, it's because it's aligned for them, or perhaps they've got the resources to outsource everything that isn't. So we're not all starting with the same toolkit. We're not starting with the same amount of resources, as I said. We also need to have a look at who is offering the advice. So if they're living in a result or a situation that you are wanting, I recommend you take a really good kind of holistic look and see if you want it the way they have. Because, like, as an example, I worked with a client once whose things with his wife were getting pretty dire. She said to him, I need you to go and learn how to stay present in communication, stay present in conversations with me, because when we started, if there was a disagreement or if something he did or didn't do was questioned by his wife and she was cranky or upset or anything other than pleased, he pretty much had two modes. He'd either get really angry and defensive and then just shift the conversation into wanting credit for some other area of their life and not be able to even have the conversation about whatever she'd brought up, or he would just shut down. So nothing was ever resolved. His wife didn't feel like she was in a partnership. She didn't feel like her feelings mattered, and she didn't feel like she was with a fellow adult that she could actually project manage the complexities of life with. And she wanted that to change. And he also wanted it to change. But he was getting advice from his dad about kind of how to have a successful marriage. But his dad was in a relationship with my client's mum with these kind of patterns where the dad just said how it was, and he was so difficult to communicate with that his mum just learned decades ago not to even express an opinion. And she would sort of say to the kids, I can't say that to your dad. Oh, no. Like, he just needs to run everything. And the wife was just kind of this, just went along with it to keep the peace, potentially at the expense of her own peace. I don't know. I never worked with his parents. But so the dad giving advice on how to, manage your wife and how to manage a relationship, my client wanted a long-term monogamous relationship, but he didn't want the one that his dad had, where his dad's partner didn't share honestly with him unless it was positive. She didn't feel like she had someone that she could share and grow with. She had someone that kind of operated like a boss. So if someone's giving you advice, they might have to the external eye what you want, but just have a really good holistic, just honouring, self-loving look at, do you want it exactly how they're having it? And just kind of filter it through there. It also needs to be said that some advice and opinions come from people with less experience than you. So filtering, even if you fully respect them, let's imagine you're a chef and your fellow head chef, who's like an amazing chef, gives you advice about what car to buy. Like, it might be that you've been into cars since childhood and you know all this stuff, and the chef doesn't really know much about cars at all. He read one article. Just because he's an amazing chef and you really admire and respect him in that area doesn't mean he's got the best advice for you in this new area. And that's not disrespecting him as a person. It's not disrespecting his chef prowess, but it just filtering it through, is the person sharing this with me, have they got lived experience that's really valid here? And we're not necessarily going to turn around to them and say, look, that's not valid, but you can politely just take on these other bits of advice and opinions, but just, internally filter it through and then choose what's right for you. So please remember, when you're getting opinions or advice, or you're seeing an advertisement about something, or you've read a book or whatever it is, just remember that you are unique, and this is wonderful. Wonderful. I wrote a whole book about it called The Happiness Recipe, where your uniqueness is the key. Like, landing in the alignment of your uniqueness is the key to soul deep happiness. So this uniqueness is to be celebrated. It's a wonderful thing. Please also remember that we have different starting points. Like, holistically, mind, body, heart, soul, we're starting from different places, and we have different intentions for our results. So this doesn't mean, I'm not saying don't ever take anyone's advice, but I just want to invite you gently to just interrupt the pattern of doing so without running it through some personalized, self-honoring filters. And if you're new to this kind of critical thinking with external opinions and advice, and you want to build those skills, I suggest you book in for a single session with me and we'll get it sorted in 1 hour. Like, I'm really good at this. So thank you for listening. I'm really so happy about this podcast, and thank you to those of you that reach out to me and give me feedback. That's always really fun to receive. And I look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye for now.